Hello everyone, 5 rounds have already been played in the Superbet Chess Classic Romania, and this is a game from round 1. Today is a rest day, so I decided to check up on all of the games, and I decided to show you the game Gukesh versus Praggnanandhaa, like I said, from round 1. And I said in the video that I made on Gukesh on the game that he lost that everyone plays better against the world champion. They prepare more, they want to beat him, they do everything they can to win, and if they have a worse position, they of course will try everything not to lose. Of course, you will do that against anyone, but against the world champion, you just want to have that on your resume. You want to have it that you've, either survived or defeated him, or, it's just nice beating a world champion. And that's why it's not easy, as they say, heavy is the head that wears the crown. So it's an extremely complicated game, probably the most complicated one we've shown from this tournament, but that's why you guys are here. I'm sure you guys will enjoy it. Let's check it out. So Gukesh opens with pawn to d4. We have pawn to d5 by Pragg, pawn to c4, the queen's gambit, and Pragg accepts the queen's gambit. So the queen's gambit accepted, d captures on c4. We have knight to f3 and pawn to c5. This is the Ginsberg variation, or the Ginsberg defense. We have pawn to d5, and nowadays this is fairly rare. I mean, you don't. Well, okay, it's played, but let's say, okay, after a couple of moves, knight f6, knight c3, and e6, pawn to e4 and captures. This is extremely rare in modern times, because white just is down a pawn, but you don't really care. You have a passed pawn. Black's c pawns are doubled. Later on, they can be attacked. Bishop captures on c4 is coming. So this is maybe a little bit too much to give, to anyone, especially to a world champion. But Pragg wants to play. He goes bishop to d6, and now bishop captures on c4 is the main move. Pretty much everyone plays, even though it's an extremely rare line nowadays. No one plays it, but queen to e2 is the top move recommended by the engine. Bishop captures on c4, the most played move in the position, is only the second top move recommended by the engine. So Gukesh plays queen to e2 check. Obviously, he knows what's what. And we have bishop to e7. Now, there are some games, couple of them, where queen to e7 was played, offering a trade of queens, and even king to f8. But Pragg goes back with the bishop, so he burns the tempo. Bishop d6, bishop back to e7, and it is not as of move 8 already that we have a completely new game, which is always wonderful in a classical setting. Having a completely new game so early on, it tells you, how much the players are working on their preparation, and how much the engines, and neural networks have changed the game of chess. And now, while you could capture on c4, there's no need to do it right away. First, the bishop to f4. We have castles kingside and castles queenside. So already castles of opposite sides. And now look at this. d6 is coming, so you have to stop it. Bishop to d6. The third time Pragg plays with the dark square bishop. We have queen captures on c4. Pawn to a6, preparing pawn to b5, and now bishop captures on d6. We have queen captures and the bishop to d3, inviting Pragg to launch forward with pawn to b5. Even though it's not the most precise way to play, Pragg does play it. I will just show you with bishop to g4, you can also get a very nice game. For example, if knight to e4, queen to f4 first with check, and then after king b1, you will capture on f3, knight captures on f6, queen captures and g captures on f3, where black could capture on f3, but there's no need to do it. I mean, you are underdeveloped, you should get some pieces into the game. And okay, the game continues. You will probably play g6, to limit the power of the bishop and the rook when it comes to g1. But all in all, yeah, you can play it. White will push the d pawn, black will push on the queen side. Not a bad way to play, but Pragg goes forward right away. Pawn to b5. We have queen to h4 by Gukesh, and now knight to b7. Knight b to d7 to be exact, rook h to e1, and now pawn to h6. We have knight to d2, preparing to shift the knight over to e4, and now you could capture on d5 right away, which is what Pragg played. More precise would be bishop to b7, for example. And only now after knight to d to e4, attacking the queen, you will play queen b6, and now after knight to g3, okay, maybe you now push b4, c4, but also white will get the knight to f5, put pressure on that king side. It's, white is a little bit better, however you put it. But okay, after knight d2, Pragg went for the immediate knight captures on d5, and this is where things get incredibly interesting. Knight captures on d5, we have queen captures and bishop to e4. Pragg seemingly blunders a rook, but not really. He goes queen to d4. Now if bishop captures, Gukesh will lose the queen on h4. So knight to f3, attacking the queen, queen to c4 with check, king to b1, and look at this, rook to b8 by Pragg. And now, crazy position, Gukesh is completely winning. But it's not easy to see why. It's actually very difficult to see why. Gukesh did not find it. He played a great move. The move Gukesh played is actually the third most powerful move recommended by the engine. You guys will have an opportunity to find move number 1. Or, you could also go for move number 2. But what would you play here? Soak in the position, dissect the weaknesses, and what would you play here? While I give you a couple of seconds. The critical idea here is not bishop to h7 check, the move that Gukesh played. The critical idea is queen to e7. And I will show you why queen to e7 is so strong. But first, for those of you who maybe found queen g3 as it reacts directly to Pragg's last move, rook to b8, queen g3 is also perfectly fine. Because you will capture that rook, and anything other than knight to f6 loses terribly. So knight to f6 tries to sacrifice the exchange by going knight captures on e4, but you will just play bishop to d3. First attack the queen, and once the queen moves, now you will capture on b8, and after bishop to f5, now attacking the queen, you will simply bring the queen back. Queen e5, and now okay, bishop captures on d3 with check, king to a1, and now let's say pawn to c4, but you can just trade. Captures, and let's say knight to e5, and white is, up the exchange much better and probably will be winning this game, fairly easily. But still, even queen g3, which is an incredible move, is not the best. The best is queen to e7, and not for the reason you might think, not rook captures and okay, looks nice, but that's not it. There's something even better, and I'm just going to show you what happens if, let's say, black plays a move, just to show you the real threat in the position. If black plays something like pawn to a5, the real threat is bishop to f5. Now you pile up on the knight, and okay, you either lose a piece here, or if the knight moves, let's say knight to f6, now you have this beautiful queen captures on f8. That's the key idea. And after king captures, as bishop covers h7, you will simply play rook to d8 with check, knight to e8, and now rook e or rook d captures with checkmate. So that's pretty much it. So that's why after queen to e7, you would have to play pawn to g6, as you see how many threats there are without the g6 being played. Now comes rook to d6, with the simple idea of bishop captures on g6, and then you rook captures, and then you checkmate the king on g7. So rook to b6, stopping threats on the 6th rank, and now bishop to c6. Still asking, okay, what do you play here? We're just going to win a piece. So knight to b8, now with a double attack on the bishop, and now you go knight to e5. Attack the queen, defend the bishop, and there's nothing better for black than to trade. Knight captures on c6, knight captures on c4, knight captures on e7, but now just knight captures on b6, and again you have this position where you're up in exchange, and you will most likely win this game very easily. So that is the problem. The problem for Gukesh is that there were many pleasant moves to play. So queen g3, one of them, queen to e7, another one, but there's also a clean way to win black's queen, and that is, fairly clean, and that is what Gukesh played. Bishop to h7 check. And you might be thinking, well, what is this? We've seen it on the thumbnail, but makes doesn't really make all that much sense. Pragg captured, and now comes a rook to e4, and that's the key move. Now the queen has no squares. This is covered by the rook, this is covered by the rook, and everything else is taken, also covered by the rook, covered by the rook, covered by the rook, and that's pretty much it. And best for Pragg would be to just capture it. just capture it, and once the queen moves from h4, move the king back to g8, and the game continues. Pragg, on the other hand, decided to go knight to b6. He said, all right, I want to capture, open up the b file, and I want to get the knight to a4 as quickly as possible. So rook captures on c4, Gukesh captured Pragg's queen, b captures, and now we have king to c1, and here bishop to f5 was played, which is a great move by Pragg. The problem with going knight to a4 right away, it's not easy to spot, what it is, but, well, rook to d8 can be played, but knight g5 check, just to give you, a forceful example. King to g8, now knight captures on f7, and if knight captures on b2, you will play knight captures on h6 with check. And pretty much in all of these lines, the problem is that the black rooks are disconnected. And now if you capture, then of course queen to g3 check will pick up the rook here. And that's pretty much it. Queen captures, knight captures on d1. And now, of course, you don't want to capture and allow bishop to g4 check, and then you lose the queen. But you can give a nice check, get the queen off of the back rank. And now once the king moves, now you capture the knight. And queen versus a bishop and rook, you will win this with white, no problem. And these are easy pawns to pick off. Then you start pushing pawns, and that's pretty much it. So after this king to c1 move, Pragg played in the best possible way, bishop to f5. g4, bishop to g6, and here Gukesh played pawn to g5, which is, somewhere around what he should be playing, but the real key idea here was knight to e5. That was the key idea here. And it's very interesting because if the knight moves, you have knight d7 and you can fork the rooks. But interestingly, moving the knight is the best move that you can play. To give you an example, if you try rook f to e8, then you capture the bishop, and then after captures, now you play queen g3, so you stop any rook lifts as the rook on b8 would hang, and after, let's say, knight a4, going after the b2 pawn, now you have b3. The queen is guarding the pawn, and that's it. Captures, knight, again, completely weird position where the engine says that black should just give up the knight, play rook b4. But who plays that? So let's say the knight goes back, you'll play g5, and after h5, f4, f5, and now white will open up the black king and win the game, as the rook and queen are mightier than the knight and two rooks. So that is what you would have to play here after this knight to e5 move. So knight to a4, definitely the move that would have to be played. The idea is that after knight to d7, you will go rook f to e8, and now after knight captures, you will have this rook to a2 move, and this is now, well, very, very tricky. The threat is just rook captures on b2, followed by rook to b1 checkmate. And not a lot of good moves that you can play to stop this. For example, b3, just the rook to c2 check, king b1, knight to c3 check, king to a1, and rook captures on a2 is checkmate. Very, very interesting stuff here. So you would have to play rook to d2, and then rook to e1 with check, rook to d1, rook to e2, and white would have to, decide very, very deeply whether white wants to continue the game. Rook to d8 does continue it, but I mean, this is already, complete engine nonsense. Who plays that? So Gukesh played pawn to g5. Knight to e5, like I said, was the best possible way. And okay, he didn't find that first continuation where queen g3 or queen to e7 were winning. Now he misses knight to e5, and this is more than enough Pragg needs. Now Pragg plays knight to a4. And after knight to e5, which seems like, it's the same, it comes maybe at the right time. Not really. Now knight captures on b2 is very, very different, because now if you go knight to d7, remember, black is already up a tempo. So you're going to play knight captures on d1, knight captures on f8, comes with check, you're going to capture the knight. You're going to capture the knight on d1, but now c3, and look at this, c2 is covered. So you can capture here, and let's say pawn to f4, c2 check, king c1, and the rook b8, and that's it. White resigns. So after knight captures on b2, knight captures on g6 was played, f captures, g captures on h6, we have knight captures on d1, h captures on g7 check, king captures, and now queen to e7 with check. And now the question is, or rather, the question was, could knight have been captured? Well, if you capture the knight, then you get rook to b1 with check, and after king to c2, rook to f1. And okay, you can give one check, queen to e7 check, rook f7, and queen captures on c5, but now it is black who's playing for the win. Rook captures, and after king b1 or wherever, you're going to defend the pawn, and you know, black has a passed pawn. Black will also win this pawn, so you will create another passed pawn, and there's not all that much for white to do other than check the black king, but the black king will be able to hide, you know, in a practical game. Maybe, you know, with perfect checks, maybe not, but in a practical game, definitely. So after king g7, of course, Gukesh did not go for that. He went for queen to e7 with check, and he said, okay, it's two rooks and knight versus queen. Let's call it a day. King to h6, we have queen h4 check, and we went for a repetition here. Now, the reason why after queen to e7 check, Pragg did not block with rook to f7 is that now there's queen to e5 check, and the only way to continue the game is to give up the rook here, which also, you know, isn't maybe that terrible. You can still play a knight captures an f2, but you know, it's very, very unlikely that you're gonna you know, outmaneuver the white queen on an open board. It's, you know, around the draw, you can play it, but you know, there's no reason to do it. So after, you know, a couple of repetitions, it was in this position on move 35 that the game was concluded a draw as a threefold repetition occurred. So yeah, that's what I said. You know, it was a crazy game. Pragg played something no one plays against anyone, especially not against the world champion, but he prepared it to such detail that he completely, you know, confused Gukesh, messed up his perception. Gukesh had a winning position, he didn't see it, and the Pragg, again, you know, he's just, that's why I say Pragg is immortal. I mean, Pragg is always, you know, sort of dancing around these positions, -3, -5, -7, and then, you know, it's just super complicated, and then it's just 0-0, and sometimes he even wins. So yeah, that's just how Pragg plays. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Another great game by India number 2 and number 3. You know, on this month's rating list, it is Arjun Ergaisi, who is India's number 1, as he is the highest rated. But yeah, you know, it changes from month to month. Yeah, hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, next week I will be playing, or rather from tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going. I will be playing in the Croatian Team Championship with my team. We are the last ranked team, so you know, whatever we do, we will do it well and hope you know, that we get some wins. But you know, it's not gonna be easy. If I play some nice games, or maybe if my teammates play some nice games, we're gonna cover them on the channel. So you know, stay tuned for that as well. But you know, as usual, I will be following everything else that's happening in the chess world. So I hope you enjoyed it. I would like to thank Only Bullet, Random Pawn, Douglas Van Bind, Huizen, Samuel Kamuli, and Nidhi Kumar for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.